Welcome to Echoes Down the Road, a podcast presented by the band West of House. My name is Erick, and today brings us episode 6, which features all 5 members of the band, as well as a special guest interview. Moving Shadows is the star of the show today, and we dig deep into this melancholic rocker and how it unknowingly set the stage for West of House almost 6 years ago. Are you ready? Let's go. Welcome back, everyone. This is episode 6. We are getting there of Echoes Down the Road, the West of House podcast. As always, I am your sonic tour guide, Erick.
And I'm Lance.
This is Tommy.
This is Kevin.
And this is Dave.
Oh my gosh. All 5 of us in the same place?
Very funny.
I can barely contain my excitement, people.
Yeah. Is it really Dave, or is this someone saying they're Dave?
It could be a stand-in.
This is a placeholder, a very intelligent placeholder.
He's gone
like
full
the Iron
robot.
Legion.
It's like Skynet. We'll take what we can get, and we are very, very happy to have all of us here for you guys today. We are going to be talking about Moving Shadows. A wonderful song. If you haven't heard it, you're in for a treat.
Which is song 5 of the album.
Song 5 for episode 6.
My wife's not going to be happy. My new opening just sprinkled on her nice MacBook. Oh, well.
Oh.
So are you saying this is the last episode you'll be in?
As long as she doesn't know.
So that faded black transition that we're about to see is actually the MacBook dying from the beer going inside the logic board.
What you drinking, Lance?
Hey, thanks, Tommy. Waiting for that. We're hitting a nice sunny day here in Southern California, so we're hitting the modern times. We got a little sour here, a little tropical sour. Went for the 18 ounce, so I'm ready to stay hydrated. Erick, I didn't hear yours open today. What do you got drinking over there today?
No, it's a little earlier than we usually do our podcasts, and unlike you alcoholics, I am just drinking a nice, solid black coffee.
Straight black?
Straight black, nothing else. You put anything else in coffee, and it just ruins it. It's like
straight black is a sign of a psychopath.
That's what they say, but it's like overplaying drums in a song.
Hey, it never happens.
Wow, is anyone else wearing a vest? Because shots have been fired.
Coffee starts bad, so you can't really fix it with anything.
That's blasphemy.
I agree with you, Tommy. It tastes like donkey pee.
Oh my! Well, how can
and
you?
I
don't
know.
even know what donkey pee tastes like.
You know, people always ask me that. I don't have a response.
Well, then maybe you should stop saying it,
metaphor.
or we're going to start judging your beverage choice. So all the silly drinking aside, this will be a great time for you guys to pop in the CD, go on Spotify, go on Apple, and give Moving Shadows a listen. We will, of course, play it at the end of the episode. But, you know, sometimes it helps just to hear the song before so you know kind of what we're talking about. And, hey, another stream, that's another 0.0003 cents for us. So we will not say no. So why don't you go ahead and give that song a listen right now. So, Moving Shadows. This is a little trivia. This is actually the oldest West of House song. I don't know how many of you knew that. I think the band members did. So this was written in 2015. So as of this recording, it's almost 6 years old. And it was the song that gave birth to the Mad Ones, which we talked about in episode 1. At that time, we had a band called Erick Bieger and the Mad Ones. And I had done that because I was doing a show at the Orange County Fair, and I needed a backup band. So we called in Lance and Kevin. Did you play the first show with us? Or we had a different keyboard player for
actually,
that?
No.
Yeah, I was Andrew, and I believe Brian played that show, didn't he?
That's right.
Yeah, Andrew and my brother-in-law, Brian. Rest in peace, Brian. We love you.
Yes.
They played. Kevin wasn't on that. Scotty played drums, and that was Erick Bieger and the Mad Ones, and we did 2 of those shows at the fair, right?
Yes, it was about 110.
Oh, yeah.
And intelligently, the band after us didn't show, so they wanted us to play a second set.
That was a mistake.
It was, because I think Andrew's fingers melted on his keys.
That's right, because the sun was shining through a rip in the, the little
shade.
tent. Yeah. And instead of moving his keyboard, which was in the sun, he left it there and actually burned his fingers.
Yeah, and we never heard from him again. He
never played again. But then Kevin joined, and then writing more in the future. Fast forward to 2015, I was writing a song, and Moving Shadows just came around, and that was kind of getting rid of the Erick Bieger part, because it's no fun to be a solo act. It's just not the same. And turn it into a full-fledged band with Lance and Kevin and our friend Scott at the time. So I remember writing this song on just a crappy, broken down, beat up, almost out of tune acoustic guitar. And the magic of that, the entire song, music and lyrics, came together in less than an hour. It had been a while since I had written a song, and I definitely wasn't as prolific as this whole West of House craziness that we do now. This was back when I was writing maybe 2 or 3 songs a year. But something happened, and it just kind of came together. So we do have that demo. Why don't we play a little right now? As we stand here in our silence, thinking nothing said is what to say, as it all falls down around us, as it all goes up in flames. Every lifetime is a moment. Each of us is just a breath. All we have is each other now in death. So there you go. You can kind of hear, if you're familiar with the song, the foundation of that song has stayed the same. I think there's 1 or 2 lyric changes that I did in there. Some different meter things with how the singing's going, but from verse to chorus to bridge, it's all there.
Now, Eric, that actual recording we just listened to, was that done in the hour-ish time frame of when you wrote it and did the lyrics? Or
yeah, I wrote it, and so I didn't forget it. That's recorded on a phone.
That's amazing.
I did the smart voice recorder, or whatever it was, on my little Android there, and threw that down. And in a few episodes, we will actually talk about the song that I wrote next that very same day. You know what that song was, Lance?
I do. I believe it was voyeuristic.
You are correct. Voyeuristic Symphony was written, that one also, in an hour. So I had a very productive, It was my only productive 2 hours of 2015. I think those were actually the only songs that I wrote that whole year.
They were good ones.
Yep.
Voyeuristic is such a big song. That's a good 1 year song. I mean, that thing's full of stuff.
Oh yeah. We'll get into the conversation a little later in this episode, and a lot on the Voyeuristic Symphony episode, but it was acoustic guitar and voice on that demo, but the rest of the song was there, in my head. And we'll kind of pick up on that a little later. But let's jump around. We're going to do things a little out of order. And let's talk about lyrics, since that was all done before it even came to be.
Right.
Any of you guys happen to know offhand where I pulled the inspiration for Moving Shadows from?
Well, like most of your lyrics or music, it seems like they're either some type of inspiration from a U2 type of feel, or either some type of biblical significance.
I'm
That's my
looking at
guess.
the lyric sheet online that you have in our Google Drive.
I'm also
I know
cheating.
the answer because it's
Cheater.
right there.
Yeah, you're all cheaters.
So you guys are cheating.
See, I try to make it up so it sounds real. I knew the answer, but I gotta, get some content here, people.
So yeah, well, yes, since they're cheating, the game isn't quite as fun, folks. But it's okay. We can
I'm
move
editing
on.
all this out.
Normally we don't know this stuff, so actually the fact that we do know is exciting for me.
I think you just found out we had a Google Drive, didn't you, Tommy?
Well, I think you just barely gave me access.
So it's a song based off Psalm 39.
I did not know that.
Well, you know
Same
now.
here.
And someone, I'm
have
looking
to
at the
say that-
Google Drive now. I see someone has actually highlighted Psalm 39.
Yeah.
That was Kevin. So Kevin,
I'm Googling it.
We just found our Easter egg for the end of this episode.
good job.
I have to say I did not know that because I say that every time you ask about lyrics, so I just have to keep it going.
Well, you know what? That's fun because you kind of learn along with everyone listening to this, Tommy. So,
And I'm in the band.
so it's a gift. It's my gift to you.
Well, thanks for that.
No problem. So with the Psalms are very interesting, especially for songwriters. Regardless of your religious background, the writing involved in Psalms, it's one of the greatest documents of the human emotional experience ever recorded. It's almost, well, to coin the term we used earlier, it's almost voyeuristic in kind of like you're reading someone's diary. And I was reading that, for inspiration in Psalm 39, and I came across this line in there in verse 6, which said, "We are merely moving shadows, and all our busy rushing ends in nothing." And I don't care if you're Christian, Buddhist, atheist, none of that matters to me at all. But the message from that line is obviously a universal truth, because we spend so much of our time running around wrapped up in things that don't really matter, that we end up with nothing. And it's just like shadows, they're passing, they're not physical, they're getting nothing done, they're serving no purpose, just to kind of exist and move from place to place. So it was kind of that idea that inspired the whole song and weaves throughout.
Yeah, it's kind of a heavy, dark, but humbling statement. And it also rings to me Ecclesiastes, where it's just chasing the wind. Is a common line that Solomon writes in that book, where we definitely sometimes need to be reminded that we don't really matter as much as we think we do, when it comes down, which is humbling and sometimes a little depressing. But I find solace in it.
Yeah, I agree with Lance. Sometimes I think of like when I get cut off in traffic, for example, like, we all have one thing in common. We're all going to die. I know that's kind of depressing and kind of dark, but I mean, it helps me think of the kind of connection between the person in the other car, or, kind of like the idea that we're all existing on this plane of existence together.
Well, and the fact going kind of farther down in the lyrics of the song, the chorus, it's weird because the music is very hopeful, like, and it just in the progression, it's a kind of a payoff chorus, and has kind of a triumphant feel to it. But the lyrics of, like, every lifetime is a moment, and each of us is just a breath. Like, all we have is each other now in death. So it's like it could be interpreted almost as though you were talking with a partner, like, all we have is each other, but could also zoom out more to be like in the human condition, like Kevin was saying, all of us on this same plane of existence, all we have is each other. Like, we are here in this experience, and we should make the most of it, and make the most of that connection, as opposed to chasing after things, because it's just a moment. It's just a blink.
Wow, that was awesome, Dave. Why aren't you on more of these? We need Dave on more of these. That was deep.
That's good. That's really good. Yeah, I think that's what I was trying to tap into. I mean, I've told you guys plenty that I don't always explain the lyrics because whatever it means to you, that's great. That's your experience. That's what I like. But what Dave said, what Kevin said, what Lance said, it's just kind of tapping into that universal experience, and it could be personal, it could be corporate, it could be spiritual, all those facets of relationship, and how when we get down to it, it's really only the relationship itself that matters, and not any of the accoutrements that go with it. So I like hearing you talk about it, Dave.
Yeah, that was well played, just like his guitaring.
Oh,
guitaring, is that a word?
Thank you.
It's definitely a word.
You're making up a lot of words these days.
So then the bridge, "Can you hear me? Are you listening?" Is that you like pleading to people to, hey, we are, you're not who we just have a short amount of time here and you need to make the most of it. Was that your
I'd say that's spot
impression?
on. I mean, a lot of our lyrics, they're not only very personal looks, and you'll hear that in other episodes. I think of like Echoes Down the Road offhand. That's a very personal, vulnerable lyric, but also a lot of calls. We hear that in Yesterday's, with the change will come. There's not a way to stop it. There's all these calls corporately to we as a global community of things, not me on a soapbox, but, these are messages to me and everyone. And that plea that, are you listening to this? Spot on, Tommy. Spot on with that one.
So speaking of Yesterday's, if we go back to episode 2, the word esoteric was dropped, and I made a link at the time that there's going to be esoteric in one of the lyrics. Well, this is the song that has it. So there's the tie-in for our listeners.
It's there.
Back to episode 2.
Yeah, we are merely moving shadows caught up in esoteric haze. That one wasn't in the Bible. I threw that in. It's one of those 50-cent words.
And so I have to say, I didn't know what that word meant.
Did you look it up?
I had to look it up.
Good.
Yes. So this isn't the first time, because when I first joined your band, God Complex, Eric, I had to look up spelunker, which was also in a song that you made. I didn't know what a spelunker was.
What is this? What is a spelunker?
So,
do you remember?
A cave dude, like a cave climber,
a cave explorer. And I don't know. I mean, has spelunker ever been used in a rock song before?
I'm sure it has not. Well, once now.
Yeah, that was what was that? Kittens and Chainsaws.
Well, yeah, that song, that could be its own episode.
Well, it's a good segue because, like I said, originally I wrote this for the Mad Ones, but the first time this song was actually performed was at a God Complex reunion show. So later in the summer of 2015, Tommy and I were talking, and we decided to do a God Complex reunion show to celebrate our 19th year. The Mad Ones couldn't play the fair. I'm not sure what happened. Was that the year Scott broke his arm?
I think your drummer was hurt.
Yeah.
He was hurt, and Lance was in the mountains and couldn't make it.
Something like that.
So I called up Tommy, and Tommy and I are the only remaining guys, still in contact from that band. And Kevin joined. Kevin played keys.
Yes, sir.
And then I called up, Mr. Dave Roberts, who, as you know, the other member of West of House. And that's kind of where Dave gets introduced to this song. And I believe I'd sent you this demo, didn't I, Dave?
Yeah, you sent me the voice and acoustic demo, and we had done some other stuff. Like I had played with you and at your previous church at Trinity Pres a couple times, and then you were like, "Hey, I want to do this thing for OC Fair," and I was like, "Hey, I'm down." And as we started talking more, you sent me just the vocal and acoustic, going, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And so I kind of took the ball and ran with it, and like I put in a bass track, I put in a couple extra guitar tracks and a drum track. Not nearly as cool as anything Tommy comes up with, but addictive drums and an E-kit allowed me to lay a groundwork for that. So we kind of put that together so that it had shape, and sent it back, and Kevin and Eric was like, "Wow, this is awesome." And then we got to play it, and that was where that song got to get kind of the Mad Ones treatment, and we probably didn't know it, but I mean, 80% of West of House played on that song, like 5 years before the band was a band.
Yeah. It's funny because you were the last to join West of House. We brought you in later, but you were actually the first to play on a West of House song. If you want to, parse semantics.
Yeah, we didn't know it yet.
Very few degrees of separation in our incestual band relationships that we've all gone through. They're all kind of linked together.
The 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Yeah. So we actually have a live clip from that show of Moving Shadows. We're going to play a little bit of that. Maybe I'll even throw in the part where Tommy throws down double bass in this song. I don't remember if he remembers playing that, but you recall that?
I was actually just thinking, I don't remember playing this song at all in that show.
Well, when I brought the song back up to the band, you didn't know what it was, which again, it's senility. It happens as you get older. We're okay with it. We still love you, but let's play a clip of that now, and you can relive the experience.
Are you listening? Every lifetime is a moment. Each of us is just a breath. All we have is each other now and death. Every lifetime is a moment. Each of us is just a breath.
So there you go. That was the first live performance of Moving Shadows with Tommy's double bass intact, turning everything into a metal song. You should have heard his original. Your original version of Chasing After Memories had blast beats, if I recall correctly, didn't it?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe now that I can play double bass, I want to, but I'm not in a band that really likes double bass.
Mostly just me, but
what are you trying to say?
I'm just saying, one of these days, Westie fans, there'll be one, just not anytime soon.
Tommy's Marty McFly in this, where he's like, y'all ain't ready for this, but your kids are going to
I remember that gig, though. That was a good gig. That was a lot of fun. The sound was great.
It was great. It's up on YouTube. If you search, I think, God Complex and Orange County Fair, that one comes up, and it was a fun show.
That was cool. That was a good time.
We had a good time, and it was in the hangar.
It was nice and shaded.
It was.
We had the hangar.
So much shade.
It was in the hangar, and we covered Counting Blue Cars, if I recall.
Dishwalla. That's right.
Yeah. Yep.
And did some God Complex stuff. It was really, really fun. I remember having to buy a new distortion pedal for that gig because I needed something with more cojones than my little Class A Mesa would put out at the time.
Yes, the God Complex songs were a little crunchy at times.
Yeah, and I think the reason why we ended up doing that gig, Eric, is because you had the hangar and you didn't want to give up the space, the spot for the next year. So you're like, I got a band coming, so keep my spot. And we did a pretty good job, I thought.
Then you hung up the phone and went, hey, let's get a band coming.
He's like, good thing I know a bunch of musicians that can show up.
Yeah, it came to once Mad Ones had to pull out. The God Complex reunion one came together pretty soon. And that song went on. It became a staple of every Mad Ones performance. I can't think of one where we didn't play it.
You're right. We did it every time.
It's a great rock song. And so,
especially live. It's a very good live song.
It's a good barn burner. And when we started talking in early 2020, that we had more songs than we thought we had, that we were going to move from maybe making an EP to making a full-length album. Because Lance and Kevin were in the band at the time. Dave hadn't joined us yet. It was a real easy call to bring in Moving Shadows and to bring in Voyeuristic Symphony, which we'll talk more about in episode 11. It seemed like the right thing to do. And Dave had thrown together a demo of the more rocky version of it. That's how I hear the song. His color parts and his solo and the importance of that. So it was very easy to me to make that call to Dave when we're talking about doing it for West of House. And I called him and said, hey, I want you, let's start at the top here, and I want you to put down the rhythms that you put down on the demo. Let's redo it. And I want your guitars on that. And that process went pretty well. Wouldn't you say, Dave?
Yeah, that one was pretty straightforward. Because it had more of a rock feel on the demo that I put in, but it was a little bit softer. So I remember you coming to me and saying, hey, do you have the original stems for this? And that was a dead MacBook and 2 dead hard drives ago, so I did not. But I think that ended up all working out because when you wanted it re-recorded, you said, oh, I want this more rocky. And you're like, bring out the Les Paul on this one, use it for every track.
Yeah, because the live version of it had definitely started taking on a different life of its own. And you brought the rock, man. You brought the rock to your tracks.
When that brought the foundation, and then it really took shape after everyone else. I won't skip ahead. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but it really took shape after like all 5 of us got to put our unique spin on it.
Oh, it was. Yeah, this is a fun part of the episode because this song goes in a place that, where it could have imploded and it turned wonderful. And I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'm just so excited to chat about that. So Dave does the rhythms for it. We got the rhythm guitars. I think he did, 4, 5 different guitar tracks. Dave likes to pan stuff left and right. So we got this big rock sound. I had scratch vocals on. I hadn't done a final yet, but they're there. And then we sent it to Lance, and Lance did his thing. And this had to be the easiest song you did on the album because you already knew it.
Yeah, obviously I can almost do it in my sleep, playing it for so many years. But it's funny that, I'm glad Dave got to go first and we got that backstory because I didn't know that whole time of this, 2015, and then we started playing it the summer of 16 with the Mad Ones. But I didn't realize at the time that Dave was Dave. I didn't know who he was. I just figured Erick has this Rolodex that most millennials won't know what that is, but this Rolodex full of multiple, musicians he can pull, these names out of the hat. And that's when I kind of started learning that I think it was many years later that Dave, you also did the bass on the demo, didn't you?
Yeah, everything that wasn't acoustic or Erick, I put together and sent back.
Yeah, and so we've done a few other songs and that you've recorded, and you like to put bass on stuff, which is fun because I will say, and I'm sure you've noticed, the intro and even the verse, I was definitely inspired. You did some really cool stuff, and it's a very similar line than what you did. So I got to give you some writing credits. In the chorus and bridge, I think I depart a little bit from whatever you're doing, but it's not too different. So I got to give you props for all of your string playing. But yeah, it's something obviously it doesn't take long to do. I probably did it in 2-3 takes, as I often do. I think once I've rehearsed it enough, I just throw down and I move on. But so yeah, I want to give Dave a little bit of props on that, especially the intro. The intro, I think I tried my damnedest to do it about as close to what you did on that demo, which is just a cool sound. So, but yeah, easy for me.
Yeah, thank you, man.
And it was perfect, Lance. Another perfect part for a wonderful song. So what do? We just left it at electronic drums. I don't even think Tommy's on it, is he? Oh, there he is.
Hey-oh.
Maybe Tommy's going to correct me. If you don't know, it looked like he was asleep there on our Skype.
No, there aren't electronic drums on it. Thank you very much.
Why don't you tell us about them?
So let me tell you about the drums. So this song, since I obviously forgot playing it, they sent me a video, or Erick did, of them playing it with the Mad Ones at a subsequent fair gig. And so I used some of that, but I also tried to make it my own. And actually, I have to say that the intro piece is split into two different beats, and the first beat is kind of the beginning of the song, but then we also, which was Erick's idea, I switch it halfway through to play a different beat that's going to be later in the song. So I thought it was a good idea because I recorded the whole thing, the whole intro, the same, and he's like, no, halfway through, switch it to that other beat that you're doing later so we can kind of tease that part of the song in the intro. Oh, it's a great idea.
So not to interrupt, Tom, but when you did this, had you literally forgotten that you were the first live drummer to play in the song in 2015?
Yes, I actually had forgotten. If you told me, I had forgotten again until about 5 minutes ago.
So you didn't use...
When we played this at that gig, I'm like, oh, that's cool.
You didn't use the video that existed of you playing the actual song.
No.
You used the video of another drummer playing it 2 years later.
Yeah, I used the video that you sent me, which was not of me playing it.
That's hilarious.
Which is probably good, because if I would have heard what I played before, I probably would have tried to do that, which apparently the double bass thing wasn't happening. But
the double bass, I mean, in this song, I may have just left it in. It was pretty cool. So you missed your opportunity.
Now you tell me. We're gonna have to do this one again then.
A remix. We'll have to record a remix.
No, but it was a really cool song. So I did a lot of marching drum technique in it, where the hi-hat, or not the hi-hat, the ride cymbal and the snare drum are playing the same thing with accents, with the 4 on the floor with the bass drum, which I tend to do. Whenever the hands are really busy doing something that's not a groove, I tend to just keep the bass drum pumping throughout. And it actually is pretty technical to play, to get the accents and the ghost notes all together and not have one overpower the other, or vice versa. So it was a really fun song to track, because it was a little bit challenging on a technical side. It's got that breakdown there in the middle, which I really like. Bridge, the halftime thing with toms as part of the groove. And then it comes down again, and, we're building it up, and I just really like how the song flows like that.
I agree.
I'm really
Tommy.
big into tension.
What's that? I said I agree with you. The bridge, it's like its own song, and it's a longer bridge, right, compared to most songs I think we play and in general. But the way it builds, and we all feed off each other, and there's these, I don't know, it flows in such a way that it's almost like its own little mini song, and I love that part. And I think between the dynamics of the drums and my bass and the different guitar lines that kind of build you up until we get into that final chorus and stuff, it's a really cool part of the song that I don't necessarily always enjoy when I'm playing it. It's like I'm playing the same thing, but yet when I listen to it, my God, is it such a cool section of the song.
Well, I think it's 64 bars, which is way longer than a normal bridge.
It's like a worship song bridge. It's like that build,
Hey, this it's way better than a worship song. Don't ever insult me like that again.
It gives off that vampy vibe,
But that build is so necessary.
The build is really cool.
And your drums, Tommy, for that bridge, I mean, each round, each 16 bars, you're doing something new. And
you're adding to it.
Yeah.
Right.
And you have your foundation, then you're throwing something else, and you're throwing something else. And by the time we get to the end of that bridge, especially what the drums are doing, it's freaking epic. It's glorious.
It's almost like a progressive house, like an EDM song. In that every
Right.
few bars, it's what excites it for the listener.
Mm-hmm.
Is you've got this, and then you've got this, and you've got this. You've got so many different elements. You've got the sampler plate of awesome layers.
Yeah.
Kevin, you should remix an EDM version of this song, and with like a bass drop and everything.
I'll get on it.
There you go.
Yeah.
And double bass, of course.
No.
But a lot of my drum parts are like that, though. They start off and then they build. And so something that I'm playing later on in the song, I've already played it, but I'm adding something new. And that's just kind of how I like to build drum beats. But Erick gave me a really good compliment on the fill coming out of that, out of the bridge into the last chorus. He's like, man, that's one of the greatest things. Just perfect for that part. And which is really cool. And then the end, which I really like, the outro, with what the guitars is playing. The first time I played it, I didn't catch the right hits, and I heard it when I recorded it back. I'm like, okay, there's a hit here, so I had to move my hit over a half a beat. But when we released it, Eric, I don't know if you remember Forrest Robinson, one of our mutual friends, Grammy award-winning drummer, by the way,
Great drummer.
heard it and commented,
Fantastic.
"Hey, is
He
that
was
like
he
a
was my
Rush?"
first choice for the band.
But of course he's
Just kidding.
Well, he was a little
No,
busy.
no,
He's a little
you know
busy
what,
with Phil
if-
Collin.
Yeah, no. If you had a choice between myself and Forrest, you should take Forrest. That would be better. But anyway,
He pointed out, is that a little Rush lick at the end? Which, yeah, probably is because I'm Mr. Rush guy. But that was cool to hear. But I like the whole song. I like the beginning. You know, we come out hard, then we bring it down again, and then the song builds to the bridge and comes down again, and builds to the end with a huge outro and really kind of a technical proggy ending. It's just from the drum part perspective, I think that's really cool. But I was just listening to it earlier, and the guitars in this, all the different guitar sounds and all of that, just so layered. And I don't understand all that because I'm not a guitar player, but it's really cool to hear all the different things, especially with headphones. You can hear things going back and forth. So I know we're supposed to be talking drums.
I
but
don't-
had to give the guitar
I don't
guys a
understand it
little
either,
extra
Tommy. It's
love.
okay.
oh, don't you play guitar?
And
Oh,
there's
I
a
don't know.
lot. There's a lot going on, and that kind of moves us to Kevin. So the interesting thing with West of House songs is sometimes everyone's available, to record and to put down things, and other times life is slamming us, and sometimes the show has to still go on, and we put in what we can and try to finish up a song and get everyone involved equally. And at this time, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, but I think you were getting slammed at work during the recording of Moving Shadows.
Yeah, whatever it is I do, yeah.
So Kevin,
it was busy.
Kevin's getting slammed, and we've got an almost finished song. Everything's there. And so at that time, I call Dave up and I say, "Hey, Dave, Kevin's really busy. We don't know what he's going to be able to do. So throw in some more stuff." And then Dave, you did some color guitars and your original solo, correct?
Yeah, I went and recorded all of those in kind of the other accent parts on top of the rhythm, and then the original solo that was in the bridge. So did that, double tracked all of that. That was it's only the second time I've ever double tracked a solo, and the first time I did it was on my own record 10 years ago, and it was a mistake. It was a production mistake that we ended up keeping, but we put all that together and sent it over to you, and then the tragedy that ended up making the song what it was and making it truly beautiful, it happened.
Yeah, this is, well, first it scared the hell out of me. We'll get into that. So we're 2 days before deadline. Kevin slammed. I don't know if he's coming back with tracks. We're unsure. And 2 days before I have to give this song to Bobby, I get the text from Kevin, "Hey, my parts are up." So Kevin, he gives me these other color parts, which are just freaking amazing. Wonderful stuff. There's some delay stuff that he's doing that he'd done with the Mad Ones. We threw that back in. And, but he does a solo too, which I didn't realize. And so now I've got Dave's solo from the original song, and I've got Kevin's solo from the guy who's actually in the band at the same time. And they're both fantastic solos. So we enter this conundrum. Do we use the original solo? Do we use the one from the guy who's in the band? Because Kevin worked really hard on his. And there were some moments, about an hour, of kind of agonizing over this. Which one do we throw in? Because if we don't use one, I don't want feelings to be hurt, but we have to serve the song. And so there's this back and forth, this pull. It's a total first world problem to have.
I think when this happened, I don't know if anyone else knows this, but I believe you and I went on a text thread and you shared these with me once Kevin put it up, and you were so conflicted. It was like you were almost in tears, and you're like, "I don't know what to do." And you asked those exact questions, like, Kevin's in the band, but Dave did this first, and I didn't even know Kevin was going to do this, and then it's awesome, and Dave's is, and you were like so torn. It was this weird dichotomy of emotion, and at some point it was like, we got to find a way to get them both in there. And then you found that out.
Rarely do we reach an event in the band where I'm just like, I don't know.
You figured it out.
I mean, usually everything's planned out. Everything's very intentional. There's, things are in spreadsheets and looking years in advance. It's just kind of how my brain works. But then the prophetic light bulb, so to speak, just lights up. And I cut Kevin's solo out from where it was. And I pasted it over the bridge lyrics when we start the build up. Because it's the same chords under that. And my God, it's perfect. So we move Kevin's solo, which has a kind of a different buildup to it. Days is very melodic, and it fits. It's in the solo section of the song, and it fits that perfectly. And then Kevin's doing this kind of buildup in the solo, and we didn't even know it was going to match the bridge, but it matches the bridge perfectly. And so right now, I want to play. We do have the cut of Moving Shadows with Kevin's solo in the solo spot. So we have that in the archives. And maybe, the only time you hear it, and it's a great solo there, you can't, say it's not. But let's play that solo right now. So there you go. I mean, it totally works. It's an awesome solo. But now when we move Dave's solo to that spot and move Kevin's solo to the bridge where it builds up, like we'll play near the end of the episode, now it's a masterpiece of guitar. And Dave's represented and Kevin's represented, and they're both shredding in wonderful greatness. And the conundrum is over, and I can sleep at night again. And the song is served well, because that's what's important, is that the song is served. The song always comes first. Regardless of what we think, regardless of our egos or anything, you have to serve the song.
Absolutely. Amen.
I'm glad that you made that change, to be honest, because I think the solo that Dave wrote fits the song better in that spot, for sure. And last thing I want to do is cause conflict. And I'm like the most passive person when it comes to music. I'm like, whatever works, It is.
You're so easy to work with.
The beauty of it was that it became so much more, the whole became so much more than the sum of its parts. And that song was really foundational in being able to see, like, okay, here's my style of playing, here's my style of rhythm, my style of solo, and then Kevin's style of rhythm and Kevin's style of solo. Like, I'm a huge Def Leppard fan, and I won't necessarily compare us to them, but just the interplay between the two different styles, between like a Phil Collin and a Steve Clark, where you have more of the ambient and you have more of the, I guess, traditional. But there are things that Kevin played on that song that I would have played 60 takes and still got them wrong. And I'm sure there are things that I played that Kevin would not have played the same way. But it just became so much more together.
Yeah, I think it's that contrast of style that really works well between us.
So who did the solo in the bridge with that band?
Me. Wait,
oh my
in
gosh.
the bridge? No.
Yeah.
Well,
that big long band, the pitch bend,
in the solo part or under the vocals, because there's a solo and then the bridge with the vocals. So what are you referring to?
I'm trying to think of it now. I honestly don't know which one it is. It's that note that, like, it's bending up and you don't know if it's going to get there, and it just gets there.
That's probably me. It's probably a mistake.
I don't know which one that is, and I guess I'll have to look it up, but is this something about that that sound. Every time I hear it, you know, they say some people hear music and some people feel music. I feel that bend every time I hear it. Even in my car, if I'm working and I have that song on, I will make a face when that note comes on because I'm feeling that. Yeah, I got there. I just love that.
That was very visceral, Tommy.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I'm
gonna
starting to worry that
mute
you
my
may have hurt
mic.
yourself.
I'm gonna mute my mic and go find it, and then I'll come back with the answer. Okay, how about that?
Well,
Just
you know
to be
what?
clear, we were talking about a guitar sound, right? Like there was nothing else there. That was a very
I'm
euphoric
telling you,
emotion.
some
You were
people
just
they
Sometimes
say some
the
people
guitar
feel
makes you
mi-
feel
feels it.
things.
yes.
Music makes you feel things, and
That's what the ladies say.
Makes you
Tommy's
make a
Tommy's
face.
drums make me feel things, but it's usually like rage.
Anxiety, anger,
that's what Eric
frustration.
says all the time. He'll say something like, "This stirs my loins."
You need to feel music in your loins to know it's good.
It's true.
Yeah, and after all that, I mean, the vocals were easy. You know, when we put those together, Dave's on there. He's got a bunch of backing vocals. My vocals, I forgot, double, triple tracked maybe. And they were a piece of cake after all this because we just reached a point of such contentment with the songs, and we've been playing it for 5 years. So we throw down some final vocals. Bobby Phillips, you know, comes in, does a masterful job as always, and we have Moving Shadows. And it's a perfect time right now, I think, to play the song in its entirety from Crescendo of Silence, track 5. Was going to be track 1 if Tommy had his way, but we outvoted him. So track 5, ending side 1, this is Moving Shadows.
We are merely moving shadows, caught up in a solitary case, so busy running after nothing ventured, nothing gained. As we stand here in
right, so there you have Moving Shadows in its entirety. Damn, it's still a great song. I mean, I know
say that every
think
time we
say
come
that
out of a song.
after every song that we play, but like we said earlier, it stirs my loins.
And I don't know about you guys, but this song gets the most text back to me of, wow, Moving Shadows, what a great song. I get that the most from this song than any other one on the album.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
people love it. And it was kind of a no-brainer, to release this. We released this as a single 1 week before Crescendo of Silence came out. And like I said, it was kind of a no-brainer at that point to do a video. Now, we had a good friend of the band, Paul Stamat. He did our video for Yesterday's, which was really cool. We talked about that in episode 2.
Top Shelf.
Top Shelf video. Had the VR stuff going. And the great thing about Paul, we give it to him, and we don't necessarily know what's coming back because he's an artist and we let him do his thing. But we are extremely honored and privileged, Westies, to have in our virtual studio right now, Mr. Paul Stamat. Paul, welcome to Echoes Down the Road.
Woohoo!
What's up, everyone? How are you guys?
Welcome.
Good seeing you.
It is
good seeing you.
It is good to have you. And what better way to actually talk about this video? We could chat about it, and I'm sure we'll talk about all the great things we felt. But,
Sure.
Why don't you talk about it and kind of walk us through your ideas and how it came about?
Well, after doing the first video, which, I think that whole concept just sort of, it built itself, right? When you hear the lyrics and when you hear kind of where you're going with that, it was super easy, even though it was really involved and kind of a very meticulous process. Moving into Moving Shadows, I thought that conceptually, I was like, well, we really got to see the band. I think it would be really awesome if we could just see you guys sort of create this song. And so Erick and I were on the phone talking about it, and I was like, if we could just get everyone to film themselves as if it was, they were coming up with the song and coming up with their pieces and all their parts. And everyone could kind of get to know the band and in your home environments, given the context of where we are or where we were in 2020, I thought that would be just an awesome way to sort of get everybody who had never at that point, because you'd already had one song that the second song would be, well, let's see what these guys are made of. What do they look like? What do they look like at home? And so we went from there. And then I think Erick, you had a funeral at that point, but you kind of made yourself available to get some of that extra footage that we wouldn't have otherwise gotten. So that was extremely helpful in sort of, I guess, telling a bigger story too within that the microcosm of the band coming together and figuring out their parts. Then there was this overall story, a subtle one, but a story of going somewhere, right? Which I hope came across. So that was kind of the genesis and of the idea and how it just went from there.
Yeah, it was an interesting time. My brother, God rest his soul, passed away in July. He was 57, had a heart attack. And so I was flying to Washington for the funeral. And, band stuff still goes on, and we're working through that. And you can see if you have a CD, we dedicated Crescendo of Silence to him. That turned out to be something for him. And some of the footage in the video is taken in the airport. I just remember sitting on one of those people movers that are in the airport and had this beautiful skylight above me. And so I push record on my phone and I put it down on the little handrails that kind of move. Those little people mover things I'm talking about. And it just films that skylight. And I think, Paul, that you nailed it because it's that journey. And you're just kind of moving there. And it's a beautiful part of the video. If you guys haven't seen it, it's on YouTube, and we'll give you some of those links later. But it worked out really well. I had to laugh because, so I'm filming it and then I got distracted by something and I actually forgot my phone was on the escalator. And there's a clip of that at the end where my phone falls off. It keeps going off the escalator and falls somewhere on the ground, which was just typical of everything I do in my life.
Right.
But it was a beautiful video. And I think it was fun to capture everyone in their places, even though, well, like we've talked about in earlier episodes, this is a band that's never been in the same room together. But in that video, it's fun to watch because I feel like we all come together.
Yeah, and from an editing standpoint, what I sort of I loved about it was that you get to see everyone in a very normalized kind of view, as abnormal as the year was. That there was normalcy in it. I think that's probably one of those things that you can't. I mean, I realizing that we're doing something that is inherently artificial, but at the same time, you can't fake it at the same time, right? Because, like, if you tried to do that again, I don't think you can do that again. As like let's say we were going to do a different video, we'll do the same concept again, and it wouldn't work. As an introduction, it totally works, right? It's like you see everyone, you feel. I mean, you like. Maybe because I know Tommy, but I really loved that part with him and his daughter. I loved just like I said, the story. I loved that everyone was all in, and that you get to see those pieces. Like for me personally, watching, it was like, even though I was building it again, watching you guys build a song to me was like, it was like being there at the same time, and I totally appreciated just being able to sort of be a fly on the wall. I think that's kind of the at the end of the day, that's what everyone gets to be. You get to be privy to something. You get to be privy to somebody creating art, and I think that everyone who isn't an art, or if they are an artist, they could totally appreciate it. And if they're not, then they get to get a sneak peek of what it's like to make a song,
Like, I loved, Paul, I know we've never met or talked directly, but I loved the way that you put the video together. I loved, like, the personal aspect of, like, yes, it was kind of like playback, but there was still a lot of, like, okay, this is a microcosm of how we would have done this. And for a lot of us, how we did do it. It's like, okay, we're sitting down, like, I'm in my couch with my kitchen table with my kids, like, converted into a classroom behind me. Like, Kevin's in his home studio, Tommy's in his dungeon, which I would love to have a soundproof area like that when I grow up.
That's soundproof.
You don't want to go to Tommy's dungeon.
That's a different episode for a different podcast, right. I think. But and then just seeing Erick and seeing Lance, just like the way we're all tracking and kind of putting it all together, like we were separate, but it allowed us to be together, and having that video put together in that way, like it gave us that cohesion. It gave us that unity so that we can show that to our fans and go, hey, look, this is what we do, and this is how we do it. We did not let distance define us.
And those are real veins when I'm singing, by the way, too. It's not the audio used in it. That's the audio from the actual CD. But I could not lip sync the song. So I think Paul has an actual videotape, and I'm singing the damn thing.
Oh, yeah. That was the first thing I said. And I remember I texted him right after I saw it. I said, I love that you're just actually singing this. He's like, I don't know how to fake it. It's just funny.
I'm actually playing too. I'm just not recording at the time. I can't really lip sync on the drums, but some people on TV do, and it's horrible, and I wish I would never do that.
Right.
Sorry. Side note.
That's why
I digress.
I think it's so important to have Tommy with his daughter in the beginning, because the rest of the video, it's his GoPro from above. You never get to see Tommy's face. And that's I mean, I know what he looks like, but I don't think people realize maybe that's who Tommy is in that opening scene. And
I do.
Go ahead, Tommy.
Go ahead. I was going to say, I do that because I do a lot of videos from a teaching standpoint to show people how to do things. If you look at my YouTube page, it's all like, here's how I played this. Here's how I played that. This is what, this is what you're hearing. They can see what they're hearing, and it helps from a teaching standpoint.
You just don't want
But I
to
don't
show
really
off
have-
like 43 different drums.
That's right. Well, the GoPro, I can get the whole giant monster kit. But it's funny because I've tried to do video shots of me playing like from the side, but I don't have enough room, so you don't really get a good view, and the background is horrible. So you get GoPro from above.
Yeah, I like it. I'm used to it. You've done that on a lot of things I have seen. And I also love the fact that many people don't even notice it when I bring it up, but my dog's asleep next to me for like half the shots on the couch.
No, I was just gonna bring that up. It was like, how did that, like, was your puppy actually there while you were tracking this? 'Cause, I mean, if you're trying to do it at home, I would not be surprised.
Well, I mean, she's always where I am, but I mean, that was just recorded for the video, of course. So I had my son sitting in front of me in our little outdoor patio lounge that we built and bought all the stuff during COVID. And so it was kind of new at the time. So we loved hanging out here, and my dog loves to just lay on this couch. And halfway through that recording, she just ran up and laid down and just kind of chilled out while we did the rest of the song. It's awesome.
You know, my dog does that too. He's really weird. When I start drumming, he comes down, he lays right under my stool. And I have some videos where he's like in the shot. He doesn't care that it's super loud and 120 dB. He just comes down and lays down by me while I'm tracking.
It's awesome.
I wish my dogs did that.
We don't deserve dogs, by the way. They're the greatest.
No,
thing.
my shepherd husky would attempt to chew on my cords if I attempted to do that.
Oh, they love chords. Yeah.
So you had to get rid of her? Is that what you're saying?
It's to kind of build off the video. It did give me the opportunity to hang out with Erick for a bit, which was cool. In the midst
That's
of
right.
all
We
the
got
sadness
together
and
up there.
reality. Yeah.
That was a fun time. It's one good thing about going to Washington was I did get to stop by Kevin's abode and engage in some good bonding and whiskey drinking and commiserating, and it was a lovely night. I think we actually went through the entire album and parsed all the lyrics, and I told you all the secret meanings. That's what a few whiskeys will do.
I did. Yeah, all the meanings of the lyrics that you wrote down, and took some videos. That sounds weird.
But now I need to see them.
Well, they're in the video. There's
There's
like
a little
one
in the video.
Nothing
Kevin looking
inappropriate.
off into the distance longingly. They're not from some secret movie we made.
Yeah. I mean, I think the edit for the video just like kind of brings this togetherness in a time where we felt so far apart, which is something that was desperately needed.
So I have a question for you guys. So one of the things that I found super remarkable was how it seemed to really resonate with a very broad audience. I mean, one of the things that I thought was funny was when Erick goes, "Well, did you see how many people watched it?" And this was maybe like within a week or so. And I was, expecting the typical kind of numbers, where you look over and go, "Oh yeah, a couple hundred. That was pretty cool." And I was like, "Whoa, wait, what's going on?" And to me, it's one of those things also where you go, who's connecting with this? I mean, so did it as you guys looked at some of those things, those metrics or whatever you want to call it, did it make you go, how? Why?
Yeah, I was definitely shocked. I mean, being an independent band, we do most of our own promotion, and you just try to get stuff out to as many people as possible. I remember pulling up the video on YouTube. We put on YouTube and on Facebook, and I sat back, and I don't know, a couple days later, I think the YouTube video was like around 7,500 views or something at that time.
Yeah,
and I still don't know who the hell watched it, but I mean, obviously it tracked with a lot of people. And Lance said earlier, that's the song. We get a lot of feedback on that song because it's a very, even though the lyrics are kind of, melancholy as I'm apt to do, the music's very hopeful. And I think it stirs something inside people that just draws them in. And the video too, it's a very intimate video, even though it's a rock song. You know, you're just seeing a bunch of guys playing, but we're not posing and, you know, doing rock, you know, things. We're just playing and making art. And the views totally threw me off. I don't know how many it has as of this moment.
7,500.
Oh, still so no one's watched it since then.
Well, 7,504. So maybe 4. So
No, and I think the original number when you first, you know, said something to me, it was something more around like 4,000. I mean, or something like that. So it's been a few thousand. But
okay, so maybe maybe the last time I looked at it was 7,500. But anyway, that's a couple thousand more than I expected. I expected 400 or 500 views, and that's obviously not us going on YouTube and watching the video 7,500 times. It tracked with people, and I still hear that it's tracking with people. But it was a wonderful surprise, and I think it's also a testament to your skill as an artist and what you created for us. It's amazing, and we are so thankful for the job you did, because I think you and I mean, we've been friends since high school,
right?
And you seem far and away, probably more than almost anyone I know, you've kind of figured out some of the things that go on in my head just from how long you've known me. And when I give you a song and you're tracking with it, you bring out something that was there, but maybe I couldn't vocalize.
Mm-hmm.
And you do a wonderful job at that. I'm sorry you have to spend so much time in my headspace. It cannot be a safe place for anyone, but we thank you for your sacrifice.
Yeah, it's an interesting place to be. But to that end, I think that anyone who's creating art, you're always going to that place where either it's a little more intimate than you're comfortable with, or dangerous or risky or whatever. But if you're not willing to take that chance, then you should go do something else, in my opinion, right? I think that's part of, probably why, some songs, take off and other ones don't. Because if you're not willing to take those risks and do the things, and take those chances and go, okay, this makes me uncomfortable, I don't like a camera in my face or whatever, right? Then you're missing out on something an opportunity that could be created, and that's what I appreciated ultimately in having the opportunity to do this, is that I do so many sort of corporate edits and things like that, they're boring, they're cookie cutter, and then just say, well, here, here's what I'm thinking, what the lyrics are, get back to me and we'll revisit this. And I'm like, well, here's what I got. And it's like, oh, and you're not mad. Okay, cool.
No, it was wonderful. Guys, any other thoughts for Paul before?
I just want to thank him for doing it so quickly and so tastefully, and even just willing to help out the band.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you, man. This was a work of art, and this was something I was excited, like when it came out, like when my kids came home that weekend, it was like they all wanted to see it. So we all got to like sit in the living room and look, we're on YouTube. I keep talking about this band that I'm helping write music for, and we're doing all this cool stuff and cutting an album. Here's what this looks like.
Yeah.
So Eric, this isn't the first time Paul's done a video for us. He did a little teaser for Montague back in the day. I remember he took some footage at NAMM and edited into part of Montague.
The early days of my really poor skills back then. I'm so sorry.
No, I'm actually watching a video right now, and I realize that Eric has a lot nicer camera than the rest of us. He must have a 4K camera or something.
Hey, you got to get with technology. And
I know.
I still, as much as I love the video, I still hate a camera in my face. It's as a musician, I'm playing live is fine, but something about the camera, I think that's why when you first said it, I was like, oh, I don't know about that, because I just don't like it. It's not the way I want to, communicate my art. But kind of Lance said it, it's just such a tasteful, perfect way you presented it. So I didn't feel like a complete idiot doing it. Then seeing the finished product, I'm like, okay, that was necessary.
Yeah.
Which is good, because musicians, we get in our own heads so much. It's good for us to let other artists, who have experience in other mediums of media, tell us what they think, and we need to shut up and listen, because then you've got collaboration, and together we are much stronger than our individual ideas.
Absolutely. Good stuff.
Well, thank you, sir. You don't have to go just yet. We're going to wrap up the episode, and you can say your goodbyes, but we want to thank you. A little longer episode today, but it was worth it. There's a lot going on, a lot to unpack with Moving Shadows, something we're very proud of. So we would like you to join us for the next episode of Echoes Down the Road. We will be doing Holy Ghosted, and that's going to be a good episode, gentlemen. There's a lot to unpack there too. It is not light fare for anyone. But in the meantime, please subscribe to our podcast episode. You can do that wherever you find the podcast, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, all those things, through Podbean. They're our host. You can subscribe there, but it's fun to subscribe. I'll let you know when new episodes come out. And you can find our music on Spotify and Apple Music and anywhere you can stream music. It's all out there. You can find us on Bandcamp at westofhouse.bandcamp.com. We are on Facebook, Instagram, the Twitters of West of House Band, and on YouTube. Come, search us up. We've talked about how long that damn URL is. So please subscribe. Get us to 100 so we can just be West of House Band instead of the litany of letters, numbers, colors, and seasons that is in that URL. And I will never do it again. We did that in, I think it was episode 1. Tommy made me read it. And
You did a great job. You know,
I'm still scarred. I am still scarred from that experience. But thank you so much for listening. We appreciate it. The first episodes are already up, and people are listening, and that's great. And we will get better every episode. Paul, thank you so much for joining us.
It was my pleasure, guys.
It was a pleasure. And, from all of us in West of House, thanks for coming, and we'll see you next episode. See ya. Bye.
So we're on Skype here. Dave, do you have a Lotso
Did he just
huggable
quit
bear?
the band? I think Dave just quit.
he's mad because you made fun of my overdrumming. He likes it.
Seriously, I think that's Lotso huggable bear in the background. What is that?
He's dark like Tommy. Oh.
He is dark.
Hey, I'm Greek, so be nice.
Is he quitting or is he still in the band? It's still unclear.
He's frozen now. Look at that.
No, I think
Or
he's
is this-
flexing his pecs.
No.
I can do that too. We can all look like we're frozen. How's that?
All right, it's
Oh,
probably
this
a one
episode is
episode day with the way this is going.
Falling.
I think he's putting in new headphones, sir.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
moving, but not much.
Is he
Did,
is he dead?
I think his
Is he brown?
In-ears
Is he
died.
clean?
Your editing is gonna be horrible on this one.
there's a big chunk you're gonna take out.
Yeah, this whole chunk is worthless. What's going on, Dave?
Well, you know what? I'm just gonna move on with my stuff because
Yeah, let's
we'll wait
do
for
it.
him. So
We'll get him back.